Welcome to the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. We discuss 5 questions in about 10 minutes, and I am very grateful to have our guest today. This is Adam Sandman. He is the CEO of Inflectra, and they are based out of Washington, D.C. Adam, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. What would you like the audience to know about Inflectra?
Oh, thanks, Sean. It's a pleasure to be here today. And in Inflectra, we're a software company, and we focus, we're a values-driven company, and we believe in bringing harmony to people involved in software development, software testing, and basically managing an entire development of systems and software. And we bring a risk-based approach. We work with customers in various industries, from life sciences, defense, healthcare, insurance, banking, and telecom, covering most of the regulated industries. If you've got a hard problem and you're building a complex system, please check us out.
That's great. Very important work to help harmonize all of those different parts. So I like that word that you used. All right, well, let's get to our questions. The first question, describe for the audience a time or an experience of collaboration in a team that you've had.
Right. I mean, we're a smaller company, so by its very nature, we have teams that collaborate in their day-to-day. But one of the, I think, experiences that always strikes me is that we have people who may be in a particular silo, like they're in the software development area, or they're in the project management, the marketing. And when we get a large client, we some larger clients, I can't name them, but they often come to us with complex problems, which are support, they're sort of sales, they have technical aspects, they have customer relationship aspects. And what I've seen, which is amazing here, is that when they come to us with a problem, they often come to me, maybe they'll try and escalate to my attention. And, it's very easy as a leader to, first of all, just answer the question and give them the wrong answer or an off the cuff answer. And I don't want to do that, because the teams work really hard with these customers, and they don't want them coming to me. So we bring the team together. And what I do is I'll make sure we have all those different functions there. And what will happen is that team will come together with the client and try and work out, is it a technical problem? Is it a training issue? Does the client, is it really a business issue they're dealing with, that the technology is just a manifestation? And I want to empower those teams so that people who may have just started the company will actually solve the problem. And in this case that I'm thinking of very specifically, someone that started the company the day before, junior, out of college, had been trying to get a job in cybersecurity, hadn't got an opportunity because no one wanted someone with that experience. This is one of our largest clients having questions about security. And we're like, well, you come in the meeting and you can answer these questions. And he was able to do an amazing job, which gave him great confidence. The rest of the team was there to support him with the types of questions that he wouldn't necessarily know the answer to, or things that were outside of security. And the client was just impressed that this person had all the latest skills and from going to conferences like DEF CON, but also had the confidence and maturity to do it. And I think what I love was just seeing someone, coming in, no one would give him an opportunity, and here he is in front of a client the next day doing amazing work. So I think it was collaboration, but it was also letting people step up. Those two aspects, I think, working together.
I like how you described that. The empowerment of the team through collaboration is kind of what's coming to mind on that. Right. I really like that concept. That's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I do believe as leaders, sometimes we have to get out of the way. And we'll talk more about that when it comes to one of the later questions. Sounds
good. Well, let's go on to the next one then. I hear from other leaders that measuring engagement of a team can be a challenge. What are your thoughts?
I'm not a believer of micromanagement. I hate micromanagement. I like to manage by objectives and manage by vision and values. And so what I mean by that is, if a team is working and doing things, it isn't easy to measure if they're doing it well. If you don't want them to be like checking in on time tracking, or people install these apps that how much time are they on their screen, are they doing work, are they doing other things? So to me, engagement is not about the time you put in, but it's what you bring to the game. So for example, going into a meeting and someone's, without being asked, has come up with some amazing new template to capture something, or has improved our process, and I think it's that initiative taking that to me shows real engagement. When members of your team take the initiative and do things that you didn't ask them to do, hadn't thought of that, even asking them to do things that you didn't even know could be done, then you've got a truly engaged team. If you've got a team that's waiting for you to tell them what to do, and you're checking deadlines and monitoring how much time they're working on things, that's the wrong kind of engagement you're measuring. You're measuring working, not thinking. And to me, leadership is about letting people in your team think, experience, and try new things and fail safely. You have to let people know that if they are going to engage and try different things, they can fail safely and you won't take the blame. So that's a really important aspect. If you blame people for things, then the only engagement you'll get will be them doing what you told them, the way you told them to do it. And to me, that's not a team that's working effectively, and that's not leadership.
I love that. Everything that you just said in that point and that question was fantastic, because you're right. There's a tendency to micromanage, and I love the idea of fail safely. That's such a great point. I'm really glad you brought that up.
Well,
Let's
thank
go
you.
on to the next question. Question number 3. What is one quality of a confident leader that you'd like to point out?
The quality, I've touched on it already a little bit. I think they call it in the industry servant leadership, but I truly think as a leader, your job is to empower people who work for you, get out of the way when you should, and also, another aspect of that is being there to shelter them when you need. So a confident leader is someone who doesn't need to be in the limelight. They're more than happy to you do this meeting without me, but if you get any trouble and text me if you need me, I'm happy to jump in. But I really want you to take this meeting. You own the relationship with the client. I empower you. I don't need to be there to monitor you. I'm confident enough to know that you'll do a good job, because I know you do a good job. I say this all the time. But on the other hand, I don't want to necessarily put you out there to the wolves without backup. So I'm there as backup. If I'm on the call, I might be silent on mute with the camera off, but I'm ready there to jump in if you need me to. But I don't want to be the one, because what I'll find is sometimes with leaders, and it isn't this even their fault. Sometimes if you're on a call, because you're the leader, you're the CEO or the director, the other team members will defer to you to lead the conversation. The client will look to you. So you have to be intentional about taking a back seat and letting other people drive a meeting. But then you do need to be in that meeting sometimes, or at least available for that meeting, so that if things go south, you can be the safe pair of hands. Because then that's how people will get confident to do the next meeting. So it's sort of like benign neglect combined with being there as sort of the adult supervision. Well, not adult supervision. I think it's the rescue team is kind of how I see it as, not so much as supervision.
Great response. Great information. Question number 4. Is there a person or a group or whoever that you'd like to recognize that has made an influence or made an impact in your life?
Yes, and it's an interesting one. When I first started out, we'll talk about the next question first jobs, but I worked for a consulting firm, and in a consulting firm, they had a particular style of leadership, and they did a great job in building leadership qualities. The company was called Sapient, for those who remember it. Was big in the .com days. But actually, I found I learned a lot more from my first big client that I was managing, which was the United States Marine Corps, who have a very different style of leadership to Sapient. Some qualities were similar, but different in many ways. And the Marine Corps have these great concepts of, well, they're going to send people into the field, and they don't want to be micromanaging them from behind because they don't know the conditions they're working in. And they would always talk about what's called, if you read about this, commander's intent. You tell people what the objective is: capture this hill, do whatever you're supposed to do. We're not going to tell you how to do it, so you can adjust on the fly if conditions change, which they will. So that way you're not waiting for instructions to come back. But also in the Marine Corps, there's another key aspect of leadership, which is, first of all, you always complain. They use other words, but complain up the tree, you never complain down. So if someone works for you, is not doing a good job, you're never going to yell at them in a room full of people. You would take them privately aside and maybe give them feedback and coach them. But if they do a great job, you always want to encourage them publicly. So they always say, publicly celebrate, privately discipline or mentor or whatever it is that you want to change their behavior. You never want to do that in front of other people, because that's just a complete disincentive. And that's some of the Marine Corps leadership approach. There's many other aspects, but I've tried to incorporate those. First of all, when I was at Sapient, I incorporated them into the projects I ran, and starting Inflectra, we're a values-driven company, and trying to use some of the Marine Corps ideas to use those to align with the values, to me has been very important. I think a lot of people find that who are not used to that. People come from other industries, or like a local government, or other people who've come to the company, they're not used to it. One thing, I remember the weirdest thing of all was when someone joined the company, they gave me a great idea. I want to do this thing, and I went, oh, that's a really good idea, let's do it. And then an hour later, she came back saying, when you said do it, did you mean do it now? I went, no, it's a great idea, do it. Here's my credit card, do it. And she's used to working in government where it would take 6 committees. And she's like, I thought it'd be more discussion. Well, it's a good idea, I like it, let's do it. If it screws up, it's my fault. I agreed to it. I'll take the blame. And I think that was very empowering. It was like, wow, I like this place. So I think obviously you can't get people run chaotic. You can't have anarchy. So that doesn't mean you have anarchy. You have to have boundaries and so on. But they're on the side of freedom and letting people try their initiative with boundaries. That would be, say, the Marine Corps' approach distilled into a work environment.
Great response. And I really like how you, first of all, recognizing the Marine Corps, but also the principles that you learned from those individuals and how it now affects your leadership, and some fun stories in there as well. So thank you for sharing that. All right, our last question. Tell us a little bit about your first job.
Well, I could talk about consulting, but that's boring. So my first job before that was actually I worked as a nightclub barman back in Wales. I'm originally from South Wales, where Tom Jones and Catherine Zeta-Jones came from, and I worked in a bar and a nightclub. And so we started work at 9 o'clock at night to about 3 in the morning, and it was a real mixed team because you had people who were full-time career bartenders, and then you had people like me who were coming there as students for summer jobs. And it would have been very easy for the full-time barkeepers who were training us to be like, these college students, they're all going to go off and get their degrees and be rich, and I'm working here as my job, it's my career. But there was never any of that. They were willing to teach us, let us learn, we had fun together, and you never got a sense of who was in it for the long haul, who was just doing it for a summer job. And you were dealing with customers who were not at their best, shall we say, and you had to always keep like any customer service job, it's great training for working in any industry. Keep calm, keep cool, de-escalate situations, know when to call the security, when to escalate. I think there's a lot of lessons I learned there. It certainly gives you a lot of humility, and it makes you realize that if you work there as a team, everyone benefits from it. If you try and do things yourself, you literally can get into big trouble. So it was it was an eye-opening job, and I think it made me a better person going into the professional life afterwards. You see everyone as humans. We're all in this together, and I think you just treat people better whenever you're in a Starbucks or any place.
It's very true. Anybody that has done this, especially as a teenager or a young adult, the service industry where you're waiting on people, whether it's in a bar, whether it's a restaurant, hospitality, any of that, you learn how to appreciate what they're doing. And therefore, when you're then the customer, you tend to treat them a lot more politely than you would perhaps otherwise. So
right. And I would say to anyone watching this, if you think that doesn't relevant for you, if you start a business like I did, you're dealing with customer support day one when you launch a product company,
right,
and you won't have an army of customer support reps day one. You might just be you, which it was. And so lessons you'll learn from that service job will come in really handy when you're dealing with your first difficult customer in a professional setting, which you probably will have.
Very good point. Excellent. Adam, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. How can people find you?
The easiest way is on LinkedIn, Adam Sandman. I've got a relatively unique name. You can also get me at adam.sandman@inflectra.com. My Twitter handle is AdamMarkSandman, although I will use LinkedIn these days probably more than Twitter. So that's probably the best way.
Very good. This is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. For more ideas, you can go to teamengagementpodcast.com. And we also encourage you to subscribe to the podcast and to the YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a great day.